Hey guys, it's Kip here from KDC Marketing, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can make a custom CMS form that can also display on your website dynamically. So this is my custom CMS form here, and when I fill this out, it goes into my CMS collection. So if I go over here to the left-hand side, I have a CMS collection called car listings, and so when I add a new field or when I add a new submission here, this is where the submissions go. So I'll show you how this will work one time, and then I'll show you how to build this from scratch in case you want to build something similar. So I'm just going to preview my website here. So I'm going to click preview. I'm going to start entering in the details. So I'm going to say that I have a Porsche. If I can spell this right, a Porsche. That's not correct. Porsche 911. There we go. Porsche 911, and I'll just say the fastest car on the planet. And then I will add an image to this, and then the price. So let me go here and add my image. So I believe it's this one. Here's my Porsche. Click open, and then here's my price. I'm going to say it's $4,000, which would be the cheapest Porsche in the world. I'm going to say 2 miles, and it was made in 2020. So then I'll click submit here, and it will tell me if my submission was received. So my content has been submitted, and so now I can go back in and check my CMS collection, and I should have a submission here inside of my collection. And there it is, the Porsche 911 2020, mileage 2, and car mileage, fastest car on the planet. Okay. So I'm going to go show you where this collection is listed on the website so you can see it display in real time. So I just added this Porsche here, and now it's added here in my collection on this other page. So this single collection is acting as a form submission and a display on the website as well. So if I go into my collection settings, this is where I configure the visibility, so the item visibility, and this is important. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but also the permissions and privacy. So this is where you can set if it's going to just show content, which should just be displaying content, if it's going to collect content, which is allowing you to submit a forms, or if it's advanced. And the reason I have advanced selected is because I want to collect content and I want to show content. And so in order to do that, I have to have view. Everyone can view and everyone can add. Because I want all of my users to be able to view the content and I want people to add the content. Now, if I only wanted certain people to add it, like an admin, I could uncheck these boxes. Or if I wanted them to be able to update, then I have to check these or delete. So this is a very simple setup. The setup that you might use for your website could be very different, but that's why I have advanced selected here, and I have these two fields. On the settings side, you want to make sure this control item visibility is turned on. And right now I have the default status for new items to visible. So what that means is when I add a new item in my form, then in my custom CMS form, then it's going to show as visible by default. If I want it to be hidden first and I want to review something before publishing it, then I'd want to check this box, because each of these items here, these are items inside of my CMS collection. Each of these, if I select them, I can change their status to hide selected items, and then they won't show on the website. So for example, let's say the Porsche just sold. It was a great price at $4,000. So I'm going to go ahead and change the status here to hidden. And when I come back to the website, you're going to see the Porsche disappear. And that's because it's no longer visible on the website. So if you have it set to the default status as visible, it's going to show up automatically with no review. If you have it set to hidden, it'll show as hidden first, and then you can review it and then turn this on by changing the status here in the collection. So this is what I'm going to show you how to build today from scratch and just talk through a couple of things. One really important thing to remember is that the CMS form that I have on my homepage here, this is done by using the input fields over here in the add element section. So there's all these different input fields, and you'll see a little note here that these require code or CMS. So you either have to use code or CMS in order to get these to work. These are not to be confused with the regular forms. Wix has a regular form builder here in the contact and forms, And I would say 90% of the time, you're going to want to use these forms here over a CMS form. I've run into issues where people have built a CMS form when it wasn't really necessary. All they needed was a simple contact form. If all you need is a simple contact form and you're just collecting information for like a lead magnet, or you want somebody to contact you on the website, then you're going to want to use this form. You are not going to want to use the CMS form. The reason you might want to use a CMS form is, in this case, we are trying to take this data and then instantly display it dynamically somewhere else. That's a very specific use case. You might see this also with team members. You might have a team member section, and you want the team members to go in and be able to add their information into a form, and then the team members display on the website. So I would say that most of the time you're not going to use this form. It's only going to be in specific cases when you know you want to collect content dynamically, or collect information dynamically and display it dynamically in most cases. So I will show you how to build this from scratch now, and then talk through a couple of things as well. So I'm going to just I'm actually going to make a new page so you can see the entire process. So I'm just going to add a standard blank page. I'm going to say form test here, just to keep it simple. And what we need to do is we need to start building our input form. So the way that I do that is I come in here to the input and I select the field that I need. Now, most of the time, you're going to need the text input because it has most of the other selection options, but you'll have a bunch of things down here: drop downs, radio buttons, checkboxes. You have a ton of stuff that you can use. But let's start with the text input so I can show you what I mean. So inside of this input, this element, if I go to settings, I can change the type of this element here. So I can change it to password, to a number, to an email, to a URL, to phone number. So most of the time, you're going to want to use just the text input and then change it to the type that you need. And this is exactly what we need for our example. And if you're ever not sure what kind of field you need to connect it to, you just go into your collection here, and it will tell you what kind of field it is by these little symbols inside of your CMS collection. So this is a text field. This is a text field. This is a number field. This is a Boolean field. So this one's a little bit different. This is an image field, text field. And these fields are what make up your database. So when you click into the add field, you have all these options that you can use: text, rich content, number, email, URL, tags, Boolean. This is the Boolean that is the available reference. You could do a color, media. So you have all these different fields: date, time. And it's important to know which field you're going to use when you set up your collection, because you're going to have to connect the input fields to these fields inside of your database. And also the way that you display the information, you have to pick the right elements when you display it. So just to keep it basic, there are 3 types of fields here. We have text fields. So we have text, and text over here. We have image field, and then we have number fields. I'm not going to use this Boolean field for this example because it's not really necessary, but you could use other fields. So this is what I have, very simple setup. Now I'm going to show you how to go in and build this so that you can create your own CMS form if you need to. So I have my first field here, and I'm just going to change this to the text. I'm going to call it the make field. So this is going to match our CMS collection. I don't want a placeholder. I want it to be required. And so that's my first field. And of course, there's other things you could add here. I'm going to duplicate this field, and this will show you how to make these forms really quickly. A lot of times you're just going to want to duplicate what you already have set up, because now I don't have to select placeholder again and required. So now I just have to change this to model. So we have make, model, and my other text field is description. So I'm going to go in here to description and put this in, description. So now I have my 3 text fields here, and then I'm going to make my number fields. So I'm going to duplicate description. So I'm just using the keyboard shortcut, going into settings, and now I'm going to change this to number. And then I have to reconfigure a few things. So put the placeholder back on. I need to change this to price. I need to make sure my placeholder turns off. It's set to required. And then I can pick the format here. Now this is interesting. You get different options when you change these fields to different things. So you have whole numbers or decimal numbers. So I'm just going to use whole numbers to keep it simple, but I could use decimal numbers if I wanted to be very specific on the price or mileage. I don't want to do that for this. I'm just going to do whole numbers, but you could do that. So I'm going to drag my section down a little bit. So I need price, I need mileage, and I need year. So mileage, and we should be good to go there, and then year. So I'm going to change this to year. Okay, and then I have my image field. So I need to go back to my input elements, and I need to find an add or an upload button. These are the image fields here. So you can add a file. I usually just use this one. So I'm going to click this over. So I have my add a file button, and this will become my image field here. So I'm going to go to settings. It's an image type, just images. We're not dealing with videos or documents or anything. The max number of files is 1. You can change this if there's other files to be uploaded. Like if you had a gallery, I'm going to change this back to 1. This is a required field. And I like the add a file. Maybe I could say add an image file. And then it says upload, which is great. And then this has the max 2 megabytes for the file, which is fine. So the way that you can make this into a nice form like I did really quickly is you just click on each of these inputs and hold the shift key. And then we're going to put these into a stack. So now they're all grouped together. I'm going to stretch out my stack here so that it's bigger. And then I'm going to justify my stack. So as soon as I justify this, it's going to make them all equal. You can see that right now, none of these are, well, some of these aren't equal. A lot of these are. But if I justify it, now all the fields are equal. I'm going to change this to pixels so it's a fixed spacing between them. I'm going to do 20 pixels. And so now I have all of my fields here. And then if I want to, like maybe I want my image field to be up, I'm just going to move it up here. So they do make, model, description, image, then they get into the numbers, which is a good format for me. Okay, so we're almost done building our form. We have a few other fields we need to do. So I'm just going to make my section a little bit bigger. So we need a submit button, which is just a regular button here from the quick add. So I'm going to just drop this in here. And then I like to put just a heading, just a text-based heading into my stack here that says something like submit car details. So I'm going to add that. And then I'm going to justify my stack again here so that they're all the same. I'm going to align the items so that text is center aligned and make sure that my item spacing goes back to 20 pixels. You have to kind of watch that when you add or take away elements from your stack. So I'm going to have to do this again when I add my button, but I'm going to add my button. I'm going to justify my stack again, and then I will align my items and make sure I'm back to 20 pixels. Okay, so now I need to change this text to say submit. So this is the submission, and now I have my form. It's looking pretty good. I made one small design change just so I could see a background on my stack. So I went down to the color right here, and I added it a little bit of gray so we could just see some different areas here. You don't have to do that. Okay, so there's my custom form. Now I have to connect this to my data set or else it won't work. If I don't connect this to my data set, nothing happens if I fill out this form. And it can be kind of tricky because you might think it's working because you can enter information into it, but it doesn't go anywhere when you submit it. So what I have to do is I have to click on my text input here. Then I go into my CMS connections. I click on this and I add a data set. So once I add the data set, I get to choose the collection, and I have multiple collections. So I want to make sure that I choose car listings, and I can change the name if I want to. I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to leave it at car listings data set. So then I'll click create. And then here's an issue right now that this data set mode is set to read, which means that it's only going to display. So I'll get into that in a second. So if you click into the data settings here, there's read, read and write, and write. We want write. If we use read, this won't work. It won't submit. So you have to change this to write mode. And as soon as we change that, you saw some of these other filters and items per load gray out. That's because write mode's very specific. It's for form submissions. So I've got it back to write mode. Now I need to go in and start connecting these elements to my data set. So this is the data set it's connected to. Now I need to connect it to a value. So you'll see that now that I've connected it, my fields show up here that I can connect it to. So this is going to go to the make field. This one's going to go to the model field. So I have to pick the car listings, then model. And then I just do this for each of my items. So car listings, data set, then description. And then for my image, same thing. You're going to get a few more fields for the image. Not for a form, you would for displaying. Okay, so I've got my car image, and then for price, I go in and do the same thing. So price here, mileage, let's go in and connect it to the mileage number, and then year. So you make sure that all of these fields are connected. And then the last thing we do is make sure that our button here is connected as well. So we have to choose the data set. Then we have to choose the click action. Now this is the most important thing. We have submit. So this is going to submit our form for us. And then it gives us options to create automations, which is great. Add submit messages and what happens if they submit the form. Maybe you want them to go to a link. Maybe you want them to stay on the page. And then there's other things down here too for colors. You can set the colors here if you have those features enabled in your CMS. So I'm going to add the success message, and you have to click these in order for them to add. They won't add by default. And now I have a success and a failure message in case the form doesn't get submitted. And I like to move these down below the button. So I just click into my stack. They're just put into my stack right away. And they're now down below the button. So, and text color, again, you can connect this. All these things are, they're different depending on which fields and which thing you're editing. Okay, so now my form should be good to go. I've connected everything. I've connected all the fields. I've connected my button to the click action, to the data set. So now I test it. So I go into preview, and then I say the make. I'm going to say a Tesla here, Model 3, and the description is very fast car, just to keep it simple. And I'm going to upload an image that I already have downloaded. And we're going to say this Tesla here. So I open this. It's good to go. I put in the price. Maybe it's $50,000. I put in the mileage. It has 10,000 miles. I put in the year. 2025 was when it was made. And I click submit. And this is the moment of truth. If we've done everything correctly, then you'll get the success message here. So when I click submit, it says your content has been submitted. So now I go in and I check my collection and make sure that this is working. So my collection says car listings, and here we go. Here's our Tesla Model 3 year 2025, price, mileage, the image, and description. So then if I go back to my car listings page, my Tesla should show up here. So here it is, and in a second, the image should load, and it's good to go. So that's what's so cool about these CMS forms is when you are collecting information and then displaying information somewhere on the website, it happens dynamically, it happens in real time as long as you have all the settings set up. So that was one piece that we're going to build, and a couple of things about that. So you can't have a form and a display section on the same page. I've tested this multiple times. It doesn't work. So what I mean is if we wanted to collect this information and display the cars down below, right here below it, you can't do that. It doesn't work. When you change the data settings to read and write in here, read and write, what happens is it starts to pull in your most recent item and it only lets you update the item. It doesn't let you add a new one. So that's something that won't work. So that's why I have these on different pages, because the form needs to be one where it's just selected as right. And then the other one I'll show you now is displayed as read, because now it's just needs to show read. So when I go into the data settings, the data set mode is read. So you want to make sure you put where you're displaying the information on a different page than where you have the form so that you can configure these things correctly. So this one, I'm going to go ahead and build this one so you can see how I did it. And there's a couple of ways to do this actually, but this one is if you wanted to build your own custom section here. So I'm just going to build, I'm going to start a new page again. Instead of doing a new section, I'll just call it car test. So add a new page. We're going to say car test. And now we're going to build this from scratch. So I'm not going to build the repeater because it takes a while. So I already have that saved here. So if you want to see how to build repeaters, you can see that in another video. It's just a simple repeater. It doesn't even look that good, but it just shows at least the example. If you haven't used CMS before, repeaters are so important to CMS. That's what lets you display each item dynamically because the repeater has items. So you'll see here, this has 3 items by default. That's what all repeaters default to in the beginning. But inside of my collection here, I have 7 items. And only 6 are supposed to display. So each of these items can display dynamically with the repeater. So as soon as I connect this, you're going to see this number change. And then it's going to fill in all the different items I have dynamically. So imagine if you had 1,000 items, all of them would populate here. If you have 200 items, they would populate here. Or if you have 10. So it just depends on how many you have and how many are visible. So what I do to do this, it's similar steps, is I go to add a data set. So I'm clicking into an element here. I go to add a data set. I have to choose my car listings data set. I click create. And then you'll notice automatically I have 7 items or 6 and it's blinked out now. Now I can't create the items. It's because the CMS collection is powering the items in my repeater now. So if I change this to show, this number will update to 7, and then another item was automatically created down below. So repeaters are super important for displaying dynamic content. That's what allows it to function correctly. And so now all I have to do is go in and start connecting each of these fields to the right field in my data set. So I have my car listings data set, and now I go to car image, and this should populate here. And now you'll see all the images pop in. Really cool. But then I still have to do these other fields. So I come in here to this one. I connect this to make. Then those update. I connect this to model. I connect this one to price. And I connect this one to description. And right away, I have my data set here. Now I might need to do some things to get this to look good on mobile. I haven't really looked into any of those things for this specific tutorial, but you'd want to check all that. But now I'm displaying this information here on this page. And so anytime I go and update my form, which is back on this form test that we built, it'll push that information into my data set, car listings, and then it will display that information on the website on my other page that I have here, my car test. So that's how you do the full spectrum of collecting information and displaying it. You want to make sure they're on separate pages. And when it comes to the displaying side, now that we're talking about it, there are things that you can do that are different than the form side. The form side's pretty straightforward. You build the form and you have to set it at write mode, and then it will work. On the displaying side, you have more options because there are dynamic page types. So when I come in here to my site pages, I can add either a standard blank page or a dynamic page. And dynamic pages are kind of built into how this works. So I go to car listings, then I choose a template, and right away it's going to put in some default information for me. So I'll show you how this works real quick. So it's going to create the pages, and once this is done loading, then I'll have a nice list of all of my items. So it did this automatically for me, connected my data set, gave me all the field connections, everything I need, and I can customize this. But say that I wanted to add price here too. I just come here, duplicate this field, and then change where it's connected to price. So you don't have to just go with what it gives you. You can change and customize this however you want. But the nice thing is that it did a lot of the heavy lifting for you. And this should be optimized for all devices too with their current layout. So this is a little bit of a faster way to display this information in a list format. If you just want to list everything, then you can use this. And of course, I could customize this a little further. The difference between these pages is that this one is a dynamic page. And so it kind of has different capabilities than a normal static page. On this other page, this is a regular page, but it has a dynamic section, right? So if I wanted to add static content here, I can do that. I can just add a section and it becomes more static. You can add static content on these dynamic pages too, but it's a little bit different. So that's one way I could display it. And I'm not seeing it here. Oh, here it is, car listings. And you'll see it's kind of grouped under this dynamic instead of in these main pages. Another way that I can display it is by item. So I can say, okay, dynamic page, I'm going to choose my car listings and do item page. And now instead of a list of all of the items on one page, it's going to give me just one item per page for every single item in my collection, which is really cool. So here I have my Tesla and I can see my item. And if I preview this, then I can see what this page looks like. If I click next item, I can see the Porsche page and I can see Tesla and I can go back, and I think this will work. I got to set this one up, but if you set this up, you can have this button here, go back to the list page where all of them are set up. So this image goes to, the link goes to car listings list. So this will take us back to all of the cars. So we go to here, and then we're back to this listing page. And then we can even connect these pages to the items too. So we would go into like this image, for example, and we would say link connects to car listings item, and button, the click action goes to car listings item. And we could change the text, say view car, and then update it across the board. And now when I preview these, if I click into the Ford, I get the Ford, right? And then when I'm in preview mode, I can just look at, okay, let's look at these. Let's see what these look like. Here's my Porsche 911, and make sure I customize them and everything. So when it comes to collecting the data for your CMS, you have this option. You build out the form and you connect the inputs to their fields in your database, and then you have a submit button and it goes and submits it for you. When it comes to displaying, there are literally endless ways that you could display this on the website with dynamic pages, either dynamic list, dynamic item, or you could have dynamic sections, and you can have it live on more than one page. This one CMS collection is powering this page and these other pages. And if I added it to this page and other pages, it's going to power it. And I don't have to use the same fields. If I wanted this to actually be year instead here, instead of price, I could do that. And the other thing is, even though my form connects to these fields here, I could have expanded fields inside of my collection that the form doesn't use. So if I wanted to have a rich content field here, for example, then I could do that. And I just drag this over. And now, even though when they fill out the form, it won't be filled out, I could fill this out manually. So just to show you, it's very flexible. It's very flexible how you use CMS. And again, I do want to repeat this because it is so important. Most of the time, you're not going to build a form like this. Most of the time, you're not going to build a form that is CMS unless you want to use it dynamically, the information dynamically. If you want to just collect people's information, email, phone number, name, just use the regular forms. You will spend hours working on this versus the other one. And it's just the other one's so much easier to set up. And I probably won't go into it in this video, but there is a way to set up automations so that, you know, if you wanted to get a notification for when this form gets filled out, then you can. It's here on the button. So you just go to create automations, and you could create an automation that says, when somebody fills out my car listings form, I want to get an email that says that you got a new submission on your CMS form. So there's a whole process to that as well. And if you wanted to do a multi-step automation, you can set those things up. But for the purpose of this video, this is how you do a custom CMS form. And it's very flexible as well. You could use input fields here that I didn't use in your setup if you need something different, like a rating or any of this kind of stuff. reCAPTCHA, you can use all of this kind of stuff in here. You just have to know how to connect it and how it works together with the CMS collection. So I hope this video has been helpful. It's been a while since I have done a CMS tutorial, but there have been some changes in the way that CMS works. And this is, I've been feeling the need to update this custom CMS one because it's really important to know that the form and then the displaying needs to be on 2 different pages, and that most of the time you just want to use a regular form. But if you do want to go down this path and use this, you can. This is how you do it. So hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next video.